I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and today we're at the launch of something a little different. The 2021 facelift of the Volkswagen T6 called the T6.1. Well, the company are billing as the biggest update to the Transporter series of vans since the T5 rolled out. The T6.1 is a really long-running, or the latest iteration of a really long-running badge for this company. Vans have been an integral part of Volkswagen's history. Still built in Hanover, near the Wolfsburg headquarters. You can get the T6.1 in so many different permutations. I've got 4 of the sort of basic assortments behind me. Got a dual cab here with the TDI 450 engine, which is one of 3 engines you can get with the T6.1 in Australia, all 2-litre diesels. But of course, the multiplicity of combinations extend all the way across the range, including passenger vans, which let you have rear seating. In fact, really any kind of seating combination you like, through to much more commercial focused applications like the Runner, which is the entry level to the T6.1 lineup, using the least powerful engine, an 81 kilowatt TDI 250 unit and a manual gearbox. Then right down the other end of the T6.1 lineup are vehicles like this Multivan Cruise, which wears this really quite fetching 2-tone paint, also available in silver and red and silver and green, which gives you a more premium interior, space in the back for the whole clan. So this really is a car that you can fit out just how you need it, whether or not your use cases are passenger or more commercial in nature. And the good news is that for operators of the T6, those fit outs will transfer across to the 6.1 nicely. Volkswagen Australia also offer their bodybuilder program, as they call it, which is a series of factory endorsed fit outs for the vehicle, which let you essentially specify the van you need and take delivery of it entirely through the Volkswagen network and your Volkswagen dealer, rather than having to buy the car, take delivery and then ship it off for custom fitment. Of course, custom fitment is still very popular for a vehicle like this, but it is nice to know you can kind of do the deal in one place. Now, many of the changes about the T6.1 are focused on the interior and the safety technology of the vehicle. And that's what we're going to take a look at in the rest of the video. First of all, by jumping into the Cruise. Now, we're here in the Multivan Cruise, which at 74 grand is definitely one of the more premium options in the T6.1 range, but the basics are actually shared across the range. And that is that the T6.1 picks up the latest kinds of furnishings and technologies that are used in VW passenger cars. And that means it's quite easy if you're moving up from a passenger Volkswagen into one of these vans, you're going to know kind of where everything is because everything is basically shared. So that starts with the new steering wheel, leather wrapped in these cars, got all of the functions on the wheel that you'd usually expect, cruise control, your infotainment functions, and then ahead of that, in the best models in the lineup, is the virtual cockpit or active info display, which lets you put a map right in front of you, see all your multimedia and infotainment options in digital form. The regular cars have analog gauges, which are really clear and easy to read, and a more standard trip computer in between them. Now over here in the center of the dash, this spec has a 9.2 inch touchscreen, but all cars get a nice, crisp, easy to use touchscreen, and things like a reversing camera are standard apart from on the cab chassis variants, so that's definitely nice to have. And then we've also got seats that are quite reminiscent of a passenger Volkswagen as well. In this car, they've got the sort of suede inserts and artificial leather on the outside. They're quite comfortable, quite supportive. It's certainly no Touareg, but these are seats you'll be able to do a couple of hours in without a problem, including steezy features like double armrests on both front seats, which is certainly a nice to have. You'll also notice that there's heaps of storage up here, bins here. We don't have the overhead storage of the Crafter, which is Volkswagen's bigger van, but you know, there's still heaps of space here in front of you, trays for notebooks, paper, forms, big cup holders, big trays in the doors as well. You'll find a place for pretty much everything in the Crafter. Now, this one is a passenger van, and what it means is that you have these rails on the floor which let you mount the vehicle's middle captain's chairs facing backwards if you so desire. So that means that while you're getting along on the motorway, there can be conversations happening here. You can put a little table across the center as well, which means this is a bit of a mobile boardroom, certainly more useful than pretty much any SUV is going to be. But of course, you can get the T6.1 in a host of combinations that don't have any seats back here at all. And in fact, you can customize the wall fit out with windows or fixed panes, and then of course a full range of fit outs for the rear end depending on your different commercial purposes as part of the Volkswagen bodybuilder program or whoever it is you trust to fit out your vans. The basic offering that Volkswagen provide is the choice of those 3 2-litre turbocharged diesel engines in whatever output you need, and then the ability to spend about $3,000 more to put all-wheel drive on top of that, whereas most of the vehicles in the lineup come with an automatic gearbox at this point. So what's the updated T6.1 van like to drive? Well, much of the answer to that question is going to depend on what permutation of this vehicle you end up choosing, because there really are so many variations of T6.1 that you're able to buy. The one I'm driving now is very much a passenger-focused spec. This is the Multivan Cruise with the nice interior that we were looking at just before. And of course, there are a bunch of virtues to this vehicle that are shared by all of the variants, and then there are bits and bobs that differ. Of course, the fit out of the rear end is going to be the biggest way that the T6.1 changes based on spec and how you choose to equip the vehicle. And in this case, I've got, an upholstered rear end with windows and finished walls and a bunch of modular seats, but you can get the T6.1 completely stripped out if you want to. You can get it partially fitted, you can get some seats and some load carrying capacity. You can really order this vehicle exactly how you need it. And the thing about Volkswagen's van lineup is that it's a lot more modular than their passenger car lineup. So usually with a Volkswagen in Australia, a certain trim level will be matched to a particular engine and gearbox. Thinking about the Tiguan Comfort line, for example, it's a 132 kilowatt petrol. In the T6.1 though, there are 3 engines and you can more or less option them onto the different specifications as you see fit. There's some exceptions, but that's an effective rule. It kicks off with the smallest outputs. They're all 2-litre engines, but the entry-level unit, which gets under 40 grand, has the smallest outputs, 81 kilowatts of power and 250 newton meters of torque with a manual gearbox. And yet, because that torque figure is all available just off idle, it still gets along pretty well. And if all you want to buy is the runner specification of T6.1, you're still getting a pretty advanced van with a pretty good powertrain. From there though, it's a step up to the mid-range unit, which is 110 kilowatts of power and 340 newton meters of torque. And that's just going to give you quite a bit more shove off the line. And that engine's also the first point that you can option up all-wheel drive for another $3,000. And depending on your use case, how much weight you're going to have in the back, whether you're going to use the vehicle on gravel roads, the 4Motion system could well make a lot of sense for you, even though most operators still go for front drive in a vehicle like this. Some rivals do have rear-wheel drive, either as standard or as an option, and of course that's something that you can consider as well. Plus, Volkswagen's larger Crafter also offers an even more modular lineup with rear drive, all-wheel drive, or front-wheel drive. Finally, there's the most premium engine, which has 146 kilowatts of power and 450 newton meters of torque thanks to its twin turbocharged setup, and that's going to give you the swiftest experience of all, and it really does move off the line quite rapidly, particularly when unladen. Both available gearboxes in the T6.1 are easy to use. The manual is friendly and light and easy to shift, whereas the dual clutch automatics, the DSGs, are rapid shifters, really intuitive gearboxes now, really no characteristics that you'd pick out as odd or quirky, just nice and easy to use. And these engines are also beefed up a little compared to their passenger car iterations in order to just give the T6.1 the longevity that its users will require. Now, other changes for 2021 include reworked steering, which is now a little heavier, a little more car-like, bit more intuitive if you're moving up to the 6.1 from, say, a caddy van. Just easier to use, and in fact the whole layout is really car-like. The ride is still acceptable rather than really compliant. At the end of the day, this is a van, that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, but it's very much livable. And of course, once you have weight in the back or in the passenger specifications like this one, once you have the whole clan aboard, the rear suspension is really going to settle down. But compared to something like an SUV, if you're driving around without any weight in the back, you're going to notice, I wouldn't call it rickety, but certainly noisy rear suspension that is going to be a little bit more bumpy and uncomfortable going through potholes or expansion joints. But on the whole, the T6.1 is much easier to drive than you'd expect looking at a large van like this, and it's more car-like than many of this vehicle's rivals. Now, what's important is that Volkswagen have also included a bunch of new safety technology for 2021. There's AEB, City AEB with frontal collision warning, which can slow the vehicle down to a complete stop at suburban speeds and offers partial braking above those. There's also lane keep assist available, but only as an option, whereas blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert is actually standard, which is very helpful on a vehicle of this size. You also get features like crosswind assist, which helps if there's a lot of wind blowing against the slab side of this vehicle, and also driver fatigue detection for if, there's fatigue setting in at the end of a long shift. And even features like the new virtual cockpit make life easier and safer by putting a map right in front of you. So they're my opinions on the new 2021 Volkswagen T6.1 lineup, with a particular focus today on the new Multivan Cruise. There's no avoiding that, yes, this is a van, and that means it doesn't always drive like a car, but if you have a need to carry a lot of passengers frequently, whether or not that's just a big family, or if you operate a business that involves airport transfers or the like, or if you need to carry cargo with no seats behind, the T6.1 offers the same flexibility as before, but with a higher level of safety technology and in-cabin tech as well. Plus, it's a little bit better to drive this time too, so it's certainly worthy of your consideration. If you haven't subscribed, I welcome you to do so below the video. While you're there, make sure to leave a comment and share the video with anyone that might be interested. And as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.